morning, everyone. It's Dr. Richard Olberger live with you today for another exciting episode of the Richard Listens podcast. I'm excited today to have a motivated individual who helps inspire others, who is so humble you would not know his resume and track record is off the charts. Mr. George Farmer, former NFL running back and cornerback, is also now a personal trainer and has accomplished things as a high school and youth athlete that some of us only dream of. So we're going to talk to him about being the son of a former NFL player, what it's like growing up with such accolades and dreams of the NFL, and now in his current journey as a trainer, coach, and motivator. Thanks to all of you who follow and listen to the Richard Listens show. I'm grateful for you being here. Please check me out on Instagram at Richard Listens. And if you haven't already, go to patreon.com/Richard Listens. Support the show to get added value and content. I appreciate all of you bringing your authenticity, vulnerability, and I'm here to support you through it. So please sign up for our newsletter. We're going to be rolling out a book this year, course content, groups, different ways to assist you and remain connected. Without further ado, let's invite Mr. George Farmer onto the show. All right, well, we're here and live with George Farmer. George, we're just telling our guests, and I was really impressed. You're such a humble character. You carry yourself with such grace and dignity, although when we see your profile photo, it's a little intimidating there, that studio shot. But George, out of Junípero Serra High School, did I pronounce it correctly?
Yeah, Junípero, same thing.
Oh, thank you. See, now you're chatting. Now I got to work on my bilingual competency.
Yeah. I called it that when I first went there too. I mean, it's we're taught to sound it out.
That's right. That's right. Well, California is so rich in culture and history, and I'm a New Yorker, so I like, how many times you got to say La Joya before someone's like,
right.
Yeah. No,
I said that a couple of times.
So we get our cultural competency where we can, but 2010 the U.S. Army All-American Bowl. I want to ask you, a 5-star recruit to USC here, who's desperately craving and desiring a football season right now. Can't imagine what those guys are going through. And you won, is it 2 state titles?
Yeah. So I won
2 different sports.
Yeah, it was in 2 different sports. So my junior year, we won state in football, and my senior year, we lost in the state championship. In basketball, we won my junior and my senior year in basketball. And then track, we won it my junior year as a collective team, as a unit. No individual championships.
Oh, you didn't tell me you were a basketball player too.
Oh, yeah, I did 3 sports. I went back-to-back all year round.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's an interesting. So nowadays, and I don't know how much has shifted since you were in school. It's not that long ago. People are saying you got to specialize, you got to focus to become an elite athlete. Maybe you can offer some insights onto that. What do you feel? Did it prepare you? Did it make you more well-rounded?
You're asking in regards to being an athlete?
Being an athlete and playing in multiple sports. A lot of parents now trying to control and predict in terms of, I got to get that D1 scholarship and going all in on one sport. Right.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting that you asked that. My take on it is, it's over the course of the years, it's been, a lot of money is involved. So it's like, straight the game. And I think it took a lot of just the natural, funness out of the game. As a kid, when I grew up, it wasn't, about trying to really control where that destiny was going to, end up going. It was more, I just wanted to go to football practice to play around with my friends and play rough and actually, this is the love of the sport with the love we have for the game. So, we come together at this one, mutual site. It just so happened to be playing football. And I think that has taken me, to the levels that I have been played at. But I think nowadays it's a lot of outside sources just taken away from the pureness of the game. Too many people or too many athletes go into the game and try to say, hey, I'm going to go here because I'm going to go here and I'm going to go here and I'm going to go here. But, 9 times out of 10, it doesn't end up, working out that way. Football being the nature that it is, it's a brutal sport. There's a lot of factors that determine where you end up going. There's never a set road. I mean, you can kind of prepare for it, staying healthy, staying in shape, being, ready when your number is called, all those things. But there's a lot of things you can't control. So I think that, you have to play the game and go into it with just a pure, want, a pure, a why as to why you're playing this and a purpose as to, like, a lot of guys. I mean, even the guys in the NFL on a high level, a lot of guys say that, this is a huge opportunity, put them in a good place to feed their family. That's their why. They were never trying to control exactly where this was going to go. They just had a purpose behind it. And that's what drove them, through it all, whether it was one decision they had to make that caused them to make a super sharp right turn where they possibly didn't want to do that, but it was where they were taken and they make the best out of it. So, I just hear a lot of people going into it and trying to say, hey, where should I, where I want my kid to go here, or I want to do this and I want to do that. And I'm just like, you just got to find what makes you, happy and where you want to go. Cause that's the end result, is, are you happy throughout the whole process?
Yeah. You said a lot right there. A lot of things that you said, that really want to stand out to me right now. One, being a father of boys and this pandemic, their ability not to be able to, I'm sure, girls like to roughhouse too. I just don't have a house full of that. But, just how that's missing right now in the pandemic. We used to just take our bike to the field, the ability to go play and, push each other around a fun way, that the natural sport and how it really helps with development at any age, and how we're really missing that right now. Number one. And number two, like you're saying, people always think, well, at the elite level, there must be this strategy. And yet I'm seeing a lot of athletes that, they are so talented. They're hopping team to team. The first time they lose a game, the first time there's adversity. What did you learn maybe in your house, being the son of a professional football player that told you, like, to have fun and stay the course and just control the controllables?
Right. My dad, he played in, 6 years in the NFL, 4 years with the Rams and 2 years with the Dolphins back when they were in Los Angeles. So, he's definitely excited for him to be back. He's walking around wearing his jersey. But
does that mean you're a Rams fan too now?
Yeah, I mean, I've always been a Rams fan, especially that they're Los Angeles. I gotta be a Rams fan. I still got some boys that, Woods is we played in high school together. So
I was going to ask you that. He was also a track. He was you had a race against each other, right?
It was me, Robert Woods, Marqise Lee, who's with New England now, and Paul Richardson. He just got released from the Redskins. That was our 4 receivers and our 4x1 for our track team. So
in high school?
Yeah, that was our 4x1 relay team and our receivers. So we were killing the passing game. Really. But to answer your question, can you repeat the question again for me?
Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, I want to ask what it's like to go to high school with those guys. But the inner competition must have been great. About, we were talking about, letting go of trying to control every aspect of your athletic career and having fun. And did you glean any of that off of him? Or if not, where did you get it from?
So, yeah, I grew up, I'm my dad's only child. I grew up with a mom and 2 sisters on my mom's side. So my siblings are on my mom's side. But, I grew up playing a bunch of different sports. Not only sports, I grew up doing a lot of things as a kid. I was very active. Everything that I possibly thought I could do or I wanted to do, I tried it as a kid. And I think that me being like that as a kid and my dad kind of having that kind of open just nature with me as a young kid, it kind of just allowed me to see what I like best. And kind of just helped me along the way make those decisions, for myself. I never really had to make the decisions because I based on what everybody else thought. When I went into high school, at that time, fun story is that I was really good at skateboarding. I still can pick up a skateboard to this day and do tricks on it.
Right
And my
on.
little sister, she's like into it now, but like stuff like that, my dad never said that I couldn't do it, but I was really good at that, possibly thinking about possibly doing, taking that somewhere. But
So we
I
could
think,
see you on the X Games tour. It's possible.
listen, hey, it could have went in any direction. But I think that I was able to consciously make a decision for myself, knowing that football was my main thing, and that I went into it with the focus of now it's kind of more not necessarily strategic, but I think it's more focused. It's more on a strict path. More of like, you want to say just like it's I planned this or I've written it out before. It's like, I have a purpose and I have an end goal. I just don't know which kind of, route I'm gonna take. But I knew football was that thing that was going to get me to the next level or do the things that I wanted to do in life. And I think that all started from just having just a normal upbringing as a kid. You want the kids to explore themselves if you see them. That's just my opinion because I grew up with some of that as well. And I think
Unlimited
that
possibilities.
unlimited possibilities, because there was a lot of times that I was, and it helps me out to this day, like, because I did all those things, I'm not hesitant to try things that I'm unfamiliar with to this day. Little fun story, I'm trying to learn how to put drywall up, but because I tried so many things as a kid, there's like an open mindset. There's like, hey, what if this could work? So I think that kind of benefit me now because when I go into something, I don't have that pressure up front to be like, hey, is this going to work? That negative self-talk. I always think like, man, this could work. Like did so many things before that I, never thought I would see myself doing it. And I was like, wow, I look back, I'm like, oh, I just totally don't get how I'm doing that now. But I think that all that played,
Yeah,
a big
it
factor.
builds off right your definition of yourself and
Right.
and your willingness to fail. That's really or how we
Right.
see failure.
Exactly.
I'm
Exactly.
laughing not at you trying drywall, but because like half the days when I'm trying to do a workout, I have paint on the corner of my shirt or something. I've been trying to like paint the doors in my house.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the quarantine has done funny things to a lot of us.
Exactly. I think we all needed it though.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
it was literally, when you grow up, sports and books, and so when I would see someone doing something in the kitchen or handy, it just becomes unfamiliar, and so we may
Right.
learn to stay inhibited. Oh, I can't try that. I'm
Right.
not good at that,
Right.
and you
Right.
develop an identity around that's not my role, or I'm not good,
Right.
or I might fail, and it's funny how you see
Right.
this like this relationship to unwillingness to try and learn. So it's
Right.
incredible when you step into that area of like curiosity, playfulness. You mentioned it. Like on some
Right.
level, we're all trying to stay, what does it mean to be healthy?
Right. Exactly.
And
Yes.
I want to get into your work as motivating and training others and how you bring
Hmm.
that every day, because that's really hard to bring that to so many people
Right.
and keep your own tank full. But first, tell me a little bit about, the realities of playing, the high pressure, growing up USC football, D1 football, and having dreams of making it to the league. I mean, what's that like, you know, to play at that level, at that kind of an institution? Um, can you still maintain the fun, or is there just this pressure to keep the scholarship or keep your starting spot? Um,
Yeah. Um, yeah, so it's a number of things. First and foremost, I'm gonna say that like I was blessed to be able to play at those institutions at a higher level, and you know, my career, my journey was I'll never forget it. It's taught me so many great things, a lot of resiliency along the way. But like I said, to mention like going back to my younger days, out of just curiosity and fun growing up, that's what it starts out as, and obviously we know it gets to the higher level and it becomes, a business. now. But throughout the years, I want to say up until high school, it was super, super like just fun because it was high school. Your mind is
You're with
all over
your
the place in high
friends.
school. You're with your friends and stuff like that. And I think like it's really misunderstood amongst a lot of athletes going from high school to college because you don't really understand how fast things are going to turn, as opposed to not to say that they're not fun anymore, but now you're on a different level. So now you also have guys that are just as fast as you. So everything is kind of condensed now. It starts to get smaller. And what people don't realize is that, what I'm speaking from, in my experience, what I realized early on is that you had to become a sort of a young man very quick, like overnight, because now I don't have my mom waking me up or telling me to get up to go to school. The most responsibility I had was driving to school and making sure I was there, other than that. But now you're put out your own place. You need to, figure out how to manage the little money you're given, figure out how to put food on the table, go to class, maintain good grades, stay healthy in on the field, and memorize your playbook, know all that, do all that, and, just continue to just thrive, and I think that it's a very overwhelming thing for a lot of young athletes at that age, because they just go from one extreme to the next, you know what I'm saying? And it takes a minute to transition. I didn't really get my feet like on the ground till I was going into my junior years when I really like got situated. And along the way, I dealt with numerous amount of injuries. I mean, hamstrings, broken ankle, torn ACL. So that's a whole nother aspect you haven't even added in of injuries. Now you're dealing with that. So, I think that it's in a way, it's crazy to think about to be put through at that young of an age, but in a way, it's put me so far ahead of. I think that, and I'm not going to say that my career was bad because of injuries, but because of that, I'm now able to reflect and look at the bright side of things and what I take from it, the things I know from it. And training is one of them. If it wasn't for me having so many injuries, I wouldn't, be as fluent and with training and working out can tell you from experience why something is, it just wouldn't, it wouldn't be, as pure as it is now, if I didn't go through some of the things that I went through. But just to answer that question, it's a life experience, when you bunch it all together. And to talk about when I moved on to the NFL, just talking about those guys and just that next level up, just in college, it's a huge transition. I loved it. Just the camaraderie, the people I met. I still talk to a lot of my friends. We still stay in contact from guys I played with. But the transition of a whole was just, it's very overwhelming in those first 2 years. But once you get, kind of, you get a little older and you get, a little bit smarter and you start to figure out, because you get there and then now you get parties and like, it's a lot to, be thrown at a young person of 17. I was 17 when I first got there. And
Yeah, so was I when I went to college. And
exactly.
Not to cut you off, but I like to slow people down when they work with me because, I mean, just hearing you describe it, I'm like, oh my God, like 17 years old.
Yes.
Like you hear that and it's like,
Yeah.
We just look at, from the outside, this like, oh,
Right.
Here's this athlete, he's competing, he's winning, and now he's going to go to Division I, and then he's going to keep it, he's going to sail off in the NFL. And just, it's like we just see like the outside. And when you describe that overwhelm, what's it like for you to hear yourself describe like how much you went through between 17 and 19?
Oh, it was really between 17 and 24. Like, I think I learned a good 15 years of life in about 6 or 7 like aspects of things that I think I would learn over time. But just the overwhelmness of this, like, and just everything, like you get put on this. When I got to USC, the red carpet was like laid out. Like you have like you're almost have this expectation that you better, you better, do what you have to do or you're going to, you're going to fall off. So like once that's given to you, it's like you come in, everything is laid out on a red carpet. So me being overwhelmed with that, it's like the need to have to produce and have to be out there and have to provide, was always a stressful factor. You're at one of the biggest institutions, you're at USC, you have all this hype to live up to, it's a lot for a young, man to take in at that age, but I think that now looking back and hearing myself reflect on it, it just trips me out, because in that moment, like there was times I was just didn't know what to do. Like I was so overwhelmed when I tore my ACL. I never forget. I felt like I was at the bottom of the bottom, because I came in a highly recruited. I came in a number 2 athlete in the nation, and I was supposed to just come right in, and I was hit with injury after injury after injury. So mind you, by this time, it's my 3rd year. Right when I was getting settled, I tore my ACL. So I knew this was going to put me back 15 months. So I just knew now I got put at the bottom, and now it's just another uphill climb. But looking back at that now, I think that when stuff kind of gets me down or things seem hard, they don't seem hard at all, because I look back at that time and I can always relate to that feeling I had. And I'm like, I felt so horrible, and nothing can kind of, I can't recreate that feeling. Yeah, it can't take it away. I can't recreate that, but I know how it feels. So when stuff gets that way, it kind of reminds me that it's only temporary. Things will start to move in a forward direction. That's why I think that all of this and those years of me living has taught me on the back end of my life. Because just as right now, just to mention this, like and about last year was when I really was just able to transition into a new mindset of not being an athlete. Now, I don't want you to misunderstand that of saying that, like, there's a different mindset that you have. That's how you handle yourself, publicly, financially, how you carry yourself. Not to say that those athletes carry themselves bad, but you have a certain mindset, because you go from making all this money to being famous, to having everything laid out for you, to that being taken right away. Now you have to, fill out a resume, which I didn't know how to fill out after I got out of the NFL. I couldn't tell you how to do a resume. I had to look like little things like that you get put in it. And I think that's the huge shift of, not only growing up to be an athlete, but being in it as a professional athlete, and then the transition out of it.
Yeah, and thank you for mentioning that and giving me a plug. We're going to be having, we've just recorded a 5-part series called Making the Jump, which is for athletes in transition and those in retirement, because some of the things you're describing, and thank you for being humble and vulnerable with that. It's common for athletes that you go from, a certain, even if you've been a journeyman or 10-day contracts or,
right.
in and out of training camp, there's a certain comfortability there. There's a certain amount of income. And now all of a sudden you're competing with people who've been in the job market for 5-10 years. So some of the skills there's a gap there, and even figuring out who you go to, who can you trust. So we're going to do a series that covers physical health, managing your money, creating your off the field huddle, your relationships. And we mentioned your former fellow Seahawk, Chase Kaufman, is going to be on there. So who did you go to? I mean, first regarding, having an injury like that, or, even emotionally, where did you go to get support when you're at that low place?
Well, definitely.
And there's all this pressure on you.
Well, definitely. It starts back to my family, my support system, my mom and dad, my dad being a, retired professional athlete. I can always remember from a young age that every time I would fall, I would hurt myself, or I would just get knocked down in life, being that I didn't, catch the pass that I want to get. My dad was always just so calm and just, you got to catch it next time. You got next time, just kind of like, hey, don't dwell on that, keep moving forward. And I think that stuck with me at a young age. And that's what kept my openness. But I think the support system came from my mom and dad just telling me, it came from always a pureness, a pure place. It was never like, and it goes back to just me talking about, kids now, everything is just so trying to figure it out. It's just, hey, you've been knocked down, get up and just try whatever you was trying again and keep that same resiliency. But that was instilled at a young age. So when I got to that, level and things would happen, yes, I would bounce back. I would fall back, but it'd take me some time to gather myself. But with their support and, what I've learned throughout the years, up until that point, which has helped me get through it, I've never been a person to quit. Don't get me wrong, there's been times that like I thought about quitting. I mean, you're not human if you don't, but I've never been a person to actually go through with it. And I look back at the things that I've done it. I'm like, if I would have just gave up, because don't get me wrong, there's been 100 times that in college, like I was like, I'm done. But through the resiliency and what I've been taught and what the support system I had helped me push through. And now I can look back at it and share my story and, inspire others and say, look, there, the grass is greener, on the other side. And I think it all comes back from the support system, which is good. Like, the more networking, the same thing what you're doing, building your off the field huddle. Those are all great things, because I think a lot of athletes are missing that. They, you get caught up because everybody's reaching out to you. Everybody wants a part of you. But then when you get done, now you have to reach out to everybody else when you don't know who to reach out to. Like it's really,
it's confusing, right?
Do
they want me, or do they want the athlete?
Right. Exactly.
Trust is hard to be built back up in a lot of ways. Yeah.
Right. And so I guess a lot of athletes, and this is what's kind of confusing, because a lot of guys, man, which is kind of crazy, that a lot of guys which is true though, a lot of guys come from broken families and not so good areas that make it to these, make it far in sports. A lot of guys that I talk to, most of my guy friends that, I still keep in contact with, a lot of them like, man, I didn't know my father, or, I grew up, with my grandma or whatever. I grew up like this. A lot of guys don't have that support system to go back to after. So you see a lot of guys fall off after, because they have everybody and their resources at their hands when they're doing well, but the minute things stop, they have nobody to really fall back on. And that's what makes this even, more, is like the building the off the field huddle and your network, is because you'll have somebody to kind of fall back on and say, hey, this is what I'm dealing with and I need some sort of direction. Can you help me? Most people don't have, and even me, I have a good foundation, but there was still a lot of areas myself, that my mom and dad didn't know of, that I still was, I didn't know about. Like one was writing a resume. I didn't know who to turn to. Luckily I asked around some friends and, they helped me out. But little things like that, that's something small that you should know how to do. So when you get put in the real world, it's like, wow, it was a total culture shock of me transitioning out of being a professional athlete to just being normal. Like it was a total culture shock, That's why I'm thankful to be doing training and, doing well, doing that. So it's something I love to do,
Yeah. And I want to talk about that. Now, did you close the door? Is it closed? Are you giving up on any future opportunities?
In playing, yeah, only because I'm getting older and I've had a number of amount of injuries, and I just want to make sure that I'm still able to, when I have kids, I'm going to be able to run around with them. And to say, like, what's crazy now is, like, I did have some interest back a while ago when the AAF and the XFL was all getting, going. I was still, which I still am. I still can go play, which I figure I'm in great shape still. But I had tried a couple times for them, got some traction, and it's just how everything panned out with the pandemic and stuff right now. Who knows what's really going to happen, and at that time I had already been feeling like, hey, I want to get started and have something kind of sturdy that I can build off of. Because, you can always say, hey, if it isn't the NFL, you take a risk. But the other two leagues, there's no guarantee if you get hurt that they're going to pay you. If I go to the NFL and I twist my ankle, break my ankle, I get paid out for it. So there's some type of, you can fall back onto it.
We start thinking long-term security.
Right. I started thinking, my whole mindset shifted after I left the NFL, because I was like, it's fast, quick, and good money, but I'm thinking long-term security. What can I do now that's going to set me up for the rest of my life? So I think that's the determining factor.
I love that you're talking about mindset a lot,
Yeah.
And for any of the listeners who haven't listened to, read the book Mindset by Carol Dweck about, a lot of things George is talking about, shifting from a results-oriented mindset about just getting accolades or a certain amount of money or getting to a certain destination, towards the process long term. I want to have security. I want to be a father. I hear family values. So when you start shifting in your identity that way, your decisions have to go in line with it, or we feel a conflict.
Right.
It doesn't mean the same thing. I want to ask you about your passion for training and how you've gotten there. But since we're, in the pandemic and you talk about transitions, any advice you'd have for young athletes or players who've lost their season, or we're trying to think about what's next, or how to cope with the uncertainty of the times that we're in?
Yes. Sorry, can you repeat the last question that the text message just came through?
No problem.
So any advice to any, with this whole pandemic and, just the unknown and a possible future of what we can't predict of what's going to happen. The only advice that I can give anyone is just to stay the course. I mean, life is predicted. I can speak from experience to just over the time of just injuries and all that stuff happening. You just don't know where life can always take a turn. And just like anything, you got to be prepared for whatever happens. You got to be resilient, and you got to be, have a purpose and be determined. I think that this is a great time and I think a lot of people look at this time like to be, everything's not happening, everything's on hold. I was doing this and I was doing so well. You can look at it that way, but you can also look at the bright side of things and think that this is a good time to reset, like myself, try some new things, work on things that you weren't ever good at, try some new things to get better at. There's a number of things out here. You may find something else that you like. You just never know. So that's the only advice I could give someone at this time, because it's so unpredictable. None of us really knows what's going to happen in any areas. I mean, so there's no really, set advice to give. It's just, hey, whatever you believe in, stick with it, and if there's a couple of things you want to try on the side, go do it. This is the perfect time to do so. We all kind of have like a reset to kind of set back and, iron out those things we never got a chance to iron out. I think this is a good time for people to say, hey, slow down. Slow down a little bit, assess your life, assess what you want, what you value, and build on that. Don't necessarily, keep going at what you're doing. Whatever you're doing, it's kind of like just slow down and kind of reevaluate that. I think it's healthy.
That's a beautiful message right there. I mean, the thoughts that started to come to me when you're speaking. I mean, even one of my favorite NFL players, Michael Strahan. I mean, we look at the guys who, he was, you're so polished in more than one way that you can transition into something else. Right. Like even if you're a Hall of Famer. So having these opportunities to build on other skills and build yourself up, is a gift. And a lot of times we see slowing down. If we've always played, if we've always ran, if we've always competed, we see it as like adversarial. We see it as a real challenge. Right. Because it does create a conflict, especially when you're a young athlete and everything is told you, I want to be good at this one thing. Right. So, how do we build that up, and how do we encourage people to be more well-rounded, and that teach them the principle that sports helps develop you as a human being. Right. I mean, that's the real end goal. That's what I think what you're saying here is like when you start looking at it's a never-ending character evolution to figure out how can I keep growing.
Right. I also think to touch on that point that you said that sports helps you, grow up and like, be polished in life in some areas. But I think one thing sports does that a lot of people overlook, and which is a lot of like what we lack in like, society, is working together, teamwork. I think that's the biggest thing that sports teaches people is how to work alongside somebody else and not be selfish. This isn't just for me. I can't do it without this person next to me. Along with all the, things that come with sport is being disciplined, being on time, making sure your assignment, all that comes with it. But I think that goes into a bigger the category of teamwork, working together. And I think that's why sports is such a good thing, because it teaches kids, especially at a vulnerable point in their life at a young age, how to work together, how to build camaraderie, how to, problem solve, not only with themselves, but with other people, and how to get through adversity, how to get through obstacles, how to lead, how to direct, how to accept, all of that. It teaches you all of that in one setting. And I think that's the most critical thing that's missing with sports. Like sports is that one thing that, just look at how it starts from the players and it trickles down all the way down to the fans. Like we all get together for this one, event. And it brings, a lot of smiles and stuff like that. A lot of injuries too, but a lot of smiles and stuff. But just being profound in sports, it's profound. You can't get that anywhere else. So I
Yeah.
think that's one area that's very, very overlooked is just that the teamwork. You learn how to work together.
Yeah, and I didn't want to be remiss. I know this weekend there was a loss of two major activists around
Hmm.
sports and equal
Right.
rights. Just wanted to give a moment if you had any reflections on that, on the impact of loss, especially in this time around trying to create more social justice in our country.
Right.
The impact of those losses and that grief.
And who exactly are you speaking on?
Um, let's see, we lost two. I'm gonna look up the name who passed yesterday.
It's just unfortunate. Um, my only take on that is that it's going to take time. History repeats itself. You watch a lot of the 1965 riots, the law, the Watts riots, the Rodney King, all of that. It's just history repeating itself, and it's unfortunate that these lives have to be, almost like sacrificial items because we want this justice to move forward. It's just the world we live in. And it's just going to take time. And that's what I mean. Like eventually people, we all need to start working together and realizing that this is, the world is here for us, you know what I mean? And what we put here and what we do here is only going to be, you know, how we live in the future, and I think that message is slowly getting out there. But it takes time. And I think people, this whole thing with this, protesting and the way it was going about, I think that people just, some people expect it to happen overnight, and it's not going to happen that way. It takes time for all of this to change. This is years and years and years of, social injustice. So it's going to take years and years and years to build that justice back. It's not going to just happen overnight. There has to be, so many different things done in so many different areas for this to be completely what we want it to be. But I think that is going in the right direction. Unfortunate of all the lives that are lost, but I think that is slowly going in the right direction. More people are becoming aware. Less people are naive. I think this was all this. I don't like that the lives were taken, but I think that all this is a big, huge kind of wake up call for a lot of people. Not only with the coronavirus, but with the protesting that goes on, because now it kind of goes hand in hand. People are at home and they get a chance to witness really what's going on and kind of sit down and kind of assess things from, like, everybody's not moving around doing their daily lives. Everybody is,
Yeah, the distraction's gone, and even
they're
like you
distracted.
mentioned, the
Right,
joy of sports. It's a healthy distraction, and so if we
right,
were watching the NBA finals and things, maybe we'd be like, oh well, things aren't so bad. You
right,
get away from the pain, and certainly as a psychologist, I can say that as a country, when you go beyond 6 months, it becomes like a clinical problem. I mean, if there
right,
are people out there going through depression, anxiety, stress, I've had a
right,
lot of people come into my office that are, biracial or, mixed race couples, and I'm humbled by the opportunity because people are open up to, like, whoa, things are coming up that I didn't even know was there.
right,
Um, and interesting dilemmas, right? Like pressure. Do I come out and say something for my company? Do I have to become a
right,
spokesman? Like they're not sure, but even that conflict is really good because it's kind of moving you. If you out
right,
of fear went to, I just got to be quiet, I can't say anything, and that is what the negativity and the hatred caused within you. Well, we
right,
want that to come back up in a safe exploratory way because,
right,
like you're
right,
saying, this
right,
this this filling into your identity, this figuring out of the future. Maybe maybe you're not going to be like some of these great athletes who have now gone on to I think it's Maya Moore who helped someone get off
right,
death row, and
right,
another
right.
athlete, I think from the WNBA, is in Sweden. She's leading
Yep.
protests over there. So
Yep.
maybe that's not the platform you have, but there may be a way in your own life where you can step into your own skin and go, well, I do want to create change in this one area of my life.
Right. Right.
Um, and that may be confronting people or situations, or that may just be allowing yourself to express without fear.
Right. 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 I totally agree. I totally agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but back to you and motivation and the directions for, I don't know, maybe I'm pushing the wrong angle. Maybe farmer construction is coming up in 2021. I don't know.
Man, look, hey, look, man. I was taught to plant a seed and everywhere you think you could grow something. Look, maybe if I find out how to drywall the garage, look, I might go build a house. That's just
Hey,
me.
let's do it. Let's do it. I've been planting solar lights around the house, and I painted the back wall. So,
Yep. See, that's good because it's like, man, I would have never ever got a chance to do any of this. It's good. I think it's healthy for everybody. I've learned how to cook. Like I couldn't cook before, and I've been in the kitchen with my mom. Like I need to learn something.
That's right. Give me
It
a few
started off just
recipes. Give me a
yes.
few.
It started off just being in there staring because I'm like, yeah, what can I do? And then eventually I was like, hey, I remember this sheet. I can make this.
Right? I mean,
So,
it takes a stand, right? It's like, no, I
right.
want to be in here. You can't kick me out.
Exactly. I'm in here now.
But back to your passion, now of training others, what opportunities have you found in motivating others, and what are your goals as a trainer and help others channel their own inner athlete?
It just goes back to it's fun, before I even get to actually training somebody, it's something I love to wake up and do. I get up and I get excited about making the workouts of what I'm about to do with people today, like I
How much
get into
suffering
that
you
in
can
the morning.
inflict?
Well, it was just crazy though, because sometimes I'll put new workouts together that I haven't done myself. Like the one that I had we did the other day, I've never done that one, so I was like, I don't know what it feels like. But usually the ones that I give, I usually have been through them, so I can kind of tell you what exactly you're gonna feel. But that's why I did that one. I was like, yeah, I need to do this one to see how it feels. But like I said, when I wake up in the morning, that kind of gets me going. Like, I get excited to say, hey, I get to go train and like help others. And, I get to have fun doing it. And then when I get to the actual gym and do that, it feels good because it's health, and everybody needs some type of guidance when it comes to, even myself being the athlete that I am, I still look elsewhere for other type of things I could be doing to help myself stay healthy. In areas that I might not know of, but one area that I do know of is training and keeping the body physically fit. And that's where I give my, knowledge back. But I wake up every day thinking that it's an opportunity to help people. I get a good feeling knowing that, I just put you through this workout. You're feeling all like tired and stuff, but you're going to feel great after. And it contributes to you being a healthier person overall. You feel better working out, after you look better, you feel better, you move better, you operate better, you get those endorphins going. Those are, good things. And every time I'm feeling like bad or in a bad mood or I feel groggy, I go work out and it instantly gets me back. Like I get that little spunk back. And I just like preaching that to people, if people come in with a bad day, it always just gets you going. So I find joy in that because over the years I found that nothing ever beat that, to be able to wake up. Anything that I've done in life, nothing beat the feeling of waking up every day and being able to do some type of workout that got my blood going and got those endorphins going to make me feel good. I feel like it's a good therapeutic thing to do that. It helps you get back on your task and get back on your daily routine. When I don't work out, I'm like, I just feel like all over the place and just, out of just whack.
Yeah, I think I heard a statistic yesterday that the majority of communication that's going from your body to your brain far outweighs the percentage of communication from your brain to your body. And
yes.
So when people say, I feel depressed or I'm feeling, it's, and it does tie into the quarantine right now because we're trying to keep ourselves still. We're trying to keep ourselves safe.
Right.
But when you're not moving, you're telling your body to tense up. You're telling it to hold a lot more tension, to shut down. And that feels really unhealthy.
Yes, definitely. It's totally true. It's totally true. Like your body is just exactly what you said, those feelings of, anxiety and depression, same with my girlfriend. She's out working out. Hold on. Sorry about that. Hello?
We
Yeah,
had a
my
little
father.
lag for a second. Oh, he was trying
Yeah,
to call
my father had called me,
in.
but we're good.
He's calling in. What are you
Yes,
talking about on the podcast, George?
yeah. He's like, I've
We're
been
giving you a
listening.
shout out, Dad. Don't worry.
But what I was saying is, like, I was telling her she woke up this morning feeling all out of whack, and I told her to go work out. She's out there now. But just to touch back on what you said about, it outweighs your body, the signals being sent from your body to your brain outweighs the opposite way. It's so true. Those are the people who feel anxiety and depression. Anytime I've felt any of those feelings, or I might be feeling that way, every time I work out, it completely deletes it. Like that, the endorphins are so strong, people don't realize that just 30 minutes of just like, let me go move can change the aspect of your whole day. It's why I think that it's such a thing I love to do, because it's so healthy for you. It's so good for you. I think, and a lot of people need to be more active. I think that contributes into, teamwork, working together, not being selfish, not being on all those, areas. I think that all that goes hand in hand with everything.
Yeah, I didn't even delve into the more, probably one of the most profound things you focused on was team, right? And when you look at, I'm just reading, I can't stop talking about it on these podcasts, and my listeners are going to get sick of it, but the book by Jim Collins called From Good to Great. He studied CEOs and organizations, and some of these companies like Walgreens Drugs versus Eckerd Drugs, companies that failed versus ones that are still on our corners. And he looked at the culture that was built by those who led by, one leader who was great, and then when they weren't, the company couldn't do it, versus those that built a team. And there's one company in there that they're talking about, like, they built a team of being fearless, of not being afraid to go after Goliath, the leaders in the industry, and that kind of belief, when you have that feeling, whether it's in your family, being that we can overcome this hardship, this illness, this economic strife, or whether it be we can go for it, we can make it, we can support someone's career journey, become a doctor, make it to the NFL. When you have that, or just we can overcome this challenging time, when you have that together, it's the most powerful thing. And when the members start to feel unhealthy and pained, it can be contagious. So the power of getting the family to be active. I always joke, my family therapy, once a month, we had an uncle who took us hiking. And once you start climbing, even a modest hike, you can't be arguing because you need to breathe.
Right, exactly. You can't.
The bickering stop. It's like you got to start helping each other up. You got to start, you got to help each other up the next turn and give each other water. And all of a sudden, whatever you were fighting about is not important.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that's so true. When there's one guy ahead of everybody, that guy falls, nobody else knows what to do. It's same thing goes hand in hand with sports. You always see like one team has one great athlete. Well, those teams don't usually make it that far. They just have one great athlete. Then you get like a team, like, which is why, just to touch back on Seattle, I mean, those guys, don't get me wrong, but they were absolute tremendous athletes. But you never looked at, there was just one guy across the board that just was like, that's why they're successful. Other teams, have like literally like, okay, you look at one team and you're like, that team for that person. You know what I mean? Like Patriots, for example, that is them. Without Tom Brady, they're not the Patriots, but they have mastered how to work in that system. Whereas you take a team like Seattle, there's no Tom Brady. You just got a team of guys who just play all at the same level. Whereas, Patriots, in my opinion, have one or two or three guys that just play at a high level and everybody else just fits in.
Yeah, but I'm glad you got to be a part of that culture, because they have a coach, who Pete Carroll really buys into family and welcoming and team culture and they also pumping up the defense and pumping up the fans. I mean, that whole culture they've built there is really incredible. And Michael Gervais, certainly a leader in sports psychology, the fact that they brought in a sports psychologist to work with top players. So that whole system, and I hope that more teams, even here in LA in the high school level, are starting to realize, like you started to mention, whether it be a major catastrophe like COVID or protest, or maybe personal grief like injuries, which are major losses. Athletes are young, developing, and they're going through changes of where do I go now? So putting support in there and around your team, really important, and introducing athletes to as many type of supports as possible to open up their sense of identity. Who am I? Where can I go? What things can I work on? Great book by John Gordon called Training Camp goes into this exact scenario about someone trying to make a team in the NFL and gets injured. What do you do? Right? How do you cope with it, and what things can you do to build yourself up and expand your identity of who you are? Even if your goal is still to make the team, right? How do you work on your recovery? How do you work on your mindset? How do you work on your your daily approaching recovery and rehabilitation with the same level of excitement that you would playing your sport when you were fully healthy. Well, George, it's a true gift for you to make the time. I know it's been real pleasure to be connected to you. Can you tell people more, how to get connected to you and what to look for in the future?
Yes, definitely you can find me at Studio. I am not on any social media at the current moment. I will be soon, shortly, trying to come up with like a business platform and take off with that. So I'll definitely be letting you guys know when that kind of like takes off. But for now, I'm personal training down in Studio in Beverly Hills. You can come give me a visit. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm looking to do some things in the community moving forward. I got a couple ideas that are in the early stages. So, and that'll be also, launched on social media once I, develop all of that and get everything situated. So within the next couple of months, it should be up and going. So, hopefully we can team up and kind of do some things, work on that teamwork, that camaraderie.
Let's do it. I love it. It's the greatest gift of this podcast is the people I meet, the amazing resilience and, not only the, obviously the amazing talent and skill, but they're willing to parlay it into relationships and growing and helping other people, and I think that's the real empowerment of the digital age and connectivity, and networking, you said it, right? Like my team becomes those people who I begin to associate with. So just for our listeners, it's you do individual and small group training. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. So if you want to get right now, you want to get in shape, you want to learn movement that's both healthy so you don't get injured. And if you want to see George sweat along the floor with you while he tries out new workouts.
Look, yes, sir. I'll join in with you guys. We can do it together.
Well, that's what makes it fun. What's more fun than that?
What trainers do you? They can tell you what to do and watch you suffer, but it's nothing watching them do it with you and being like, man, hey, I'm sorry about that one today.
That's always the question in the back of everyone's mind. Do you do the same workout? Like
exactly.
Easy for you to say.
Exactly. That's so true because I think the same thing, Coach. How about you get down here and do it with us?
How many times you had that thought, right?
A lot of times. I've said it a couple of times. Like, we already did it.
Well, that's your secret. I don't know if you want to tell everybody, right, for a job interview, that if when they ask you to design a workout, make it so that they have to give up.
Yep, that's exactly what they tell you. You want to be right at the verge of them about to stop, but they want to keep going, but they don't want to stop. That's the sweet spot right there.
So you get hired on the spot right there.
Hired on the spot. If you can do that perfectly, oh yeah, we got something. We can work with something.
Well, George, thank you again. A real gift and an honor, and your knowledge and skills and everything you gained from 17 to 24 sounds like a book in itself. And the fact you're willing to share it and inspire others, speaks to the character you have and the family you've come from. And so we're grateful for you.
Of course, man. Thank you so much, Richard. I appreciate you having me today. Anytime you want it, we can get on here again and talk some great things.
Yes, sir. Well, let's parlay it. Maybe we'll get you into the retired athletes. We're gonna do some stuff, Facebook group, and some more, maybe like a course for them, because I think it's a needed audience.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, let me know anything I can be a part of. I'm down.
Great. Well, a true gift. Spending time with George Farmer, formerly of USC, Dallas Cowboys, Seattle Seahawks, and now currently trainer, and who knows what will come next for him. So thank you again, all our listeners, for being a part of this, for sharing your time with me, for bringing yourself present. Please, if you'd like to book a session, check me out, richardlistens.com. Send me an email or phone contact and see how I can best support you through what you're going through, or if you do know a family mental health struggle, a family member or community member going through any kind of emotional struggle or needing additional support right now. I mean, who doesn't? I'm happy to support you. Does not need to be a long-term commitment. We can help you get centered and focused, and at least feel validated in the experience of what you're doing, and find small ways that you can feel more empowered and channel your inner hero through this quarantine and this struggle and beyond to thriving in the rest of your life. Thank you again. Appreciate everybody. Check me out at Instagram, Richard Listens, and patreon.com/Richard Listens. I'm Richard, and I'm out. Take care, everyone.